Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Success369 Podcast with Deepa Rahulishwar. So, today we have with us a woman whom I deeply admire, not just for who she is. Of course, when you look at it from a title, from her position, it's a truly envious position. ആരും ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്ന ഒരു പദവി തന്നെയാണ്. And you will know when I say what it is. പക്ഷെ അതിലും ഉപരി, as a human being, the person that she is, I think the more you acquire heights of success, the more humble you be എന്നുള്ളത് ഒരുപാട് പേരെ കാണുമ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് മനസ്സിലായിട്ടുണ്ട്. And she's definitely one of them. I'm talking about Shrimati Methil Renuka, and she is the managing editor of Forbes Africa. Yes, you heard it right, Forbes Africa. Forbes, we all know, it's the biggest brand that we've always looked up to, and we always want our names. The ultimate definition of success is when you're named by Forbes. And I have with me a woman who's made it to the top, and she's a managing editor of Forbes Africa. Yes, Methil Renuka with me. Let's get into conversation with her. Hello, Renuka. How are you?
Hi, Deepa. That was such a generous introduction. My God,
This
I'm
is the
so
truth.
humbled.
But it's absolutely so moments of goosebumps when I'm sitting across a woman who has, reached heights where, and that too from Kerala, a fellow Malayali. ഒരു വലിയ സംഭവമല്ലേ അത് എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മൾ ഇത്ര അധികം എല്ലാവരും ഉറ്റുനോക്കുന്ന ഫോബ്സ് പോലൊരു ബ്രാൻഡിന്റെ ഫോബ്സ് ആഫ്രിക്കയുടെ മാനേജിംഗ് എഡിറ്റർ ആവുക എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ഐ എം ഷുവർ ഇറ്റ് വുഡ് ഹവ് കം വിത്ത് എ ലോട്ട് ഓഫ് ഹാർഡ് വർക്ക്, എ ലോട്ട് ഓഫ് ക്ലാരിറ്റി ഇൻ തോട്ട്. കാരണം അത് എല്ലാവരും എത്തിപ്പെടുന്ന ഒരു പൊസിഷൻ അല്ല. So it's truly a fangirl moment for me, an absolutely inspiring moment for all our viewers,
Wow.
right? So welcome to the Success369 podcast. I want to ask you first, okay? Now, at Success369, we believe that, success can be structured, okay? And the 369 framework is a structure that our architects have built, okay? Dr. Jayakumar and Praveen Parameshwar. So I want to ask you, what part of your success was actually structured and what part was just an accident?
See, I don't know. I mean, I think in my life, I've been quite fortunate that the story has always found me. So as a journalist, you always go looking for the story. But I've been quite fortunate that in every instance, whether it was looking for a job or finding my feet in my profession or actually so-called success and coming to this position, it's always, the destiny has always found me. And I think partly that is because I have never gone chasing it, but I have believed in it. Maybe I should go back in time a little bit when I was a child. This is something that I always wanted to do. And, back in the day when you're growing up, and I grew up in Dubai in the 70s, a profession in the media for a woman was unheard of.
Exactly.
Even a profession in the media was unheard of, so to speak, leave alone, let alone for a woman. Pasha, I don't know what it was in the 70s and 80s, maybe, when you have a sheltered upbringing, you're living in the 70s and 80s Dubai, when media had not really opened up. All you had was Channel 33. That was the television, the national TV channel. And then you had, all the shows from the US that you would see.
Yeah.
There were recaps of these shows like Knots Landing and Dallas. And so that was the only exposure, so to speak, from a media perspective. And then you had your Gulf News and Khaleej Times and all the local newspapers. But I always told my dad that I was reading all of that, but I needed to read more than that. And I was reading my novels and, fiction and all of that, but I needed to read about what was happening in the rest of the world. So I would, for birthday gifts, I would actually tell him that I need a subscription to Illustrated Weekly, which is, of course, we don't have Illustrated Weekly anymore. I wanted a subscription to India Today. I started with the Chanda Mama and the Amar Chitra Kathas, and then I graduated to Illustrated Weekly and India Today and, the Time Magazine, some of those publications that had already started in the rest of the world. And I think what was happening in the rest of the world, I was very keen on, and we didn't get regular feeds of that. Obviously, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have enough of, television channels to tell us what was happening. But that interest had been stoked. And I remember my mother constantly complaining to her friends that, "Ee kuti പുസ്തകമൊന്നും വായിക്കില്ല. ന്യൂസ് പേപ്പർ മാത്രമേ ഒരു അറ്റം തൊട്ട് മറ്റേ അറ്റം വരെ വായിക്കുള്ളൂ.
Wow. And what age was it?
I was 8, 9, 10. So,
Wow.
ആ സമയത്തും കൂടെ പേപ്പർ ഒരറ്റം തൊട്ട് മറ്റേ അറ്റം വരെ I would read. And that would, she'd be like, ഇവൾക്ക് പുസ്തകമൊന്നും പഠിക്കാനില്ലേ?
പക്ഷെ അത് എവിടുന്നാണ് അത് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്തത്?
അറിയില്ല.
You don't know.
I think it's because my mother's family, the writers in our family.
Yeah,
if you look
I
at VKN is her sister's husband. Was her sister's husband. I mean, he's no more. Then Methil Renuka is, of course, Ammada cousin. Amma is herself a writer. She's released 2 books.
2 books.
Second book was at the age of 77, last year, which was second fiction. So that interest, and my dad was also, his dad was a teacher, an English teacher. So somewhere I think that interest in reading. But in my case, it was in the interest in news.
It's not just any reading.
No, it was not just any reading. It was news journalism. It was news content. And I was always...
That's really, really strange. I mean, at that, അത്രയും ചെറു പ്രായത്തില് കുട്ടികൾ കുറെയൊക്കെ എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു ഇനി ആ ടൈമിൻ്റെതാണോ എന്ന് എനിക്കറിയില്ല. ബിക്കോസ് അറ്റ് ദാറ്റ് ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ കാലത്ത് കുട്ടികൾക്ക് ഇരുന്ന് ന്യൂസ് പേപ്പർ ഒന്നും വായിക്കാനോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ന്യൂസ് ലൈക്ക് it's more about gaming and Xbox and that and this and all of that.
ന്യൂസ് തേടി പോണ്ട ആവശ്യമില്ലല്ലോ ദീപ. ഇന്ന് everything is at their fingertips അല്ലേ? ഈ സോ കോൾഡ് ഈ ന്യൂസ് ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ ഹെവി അല്ലേ നമ്മളുടെ ലൈവ്സ്. സോ ദേ ഡോണ്ട് റിയലി നീഡ് ടു ലുക്ക് ഫോർ ഇറ്റ്. പക്ഷെ ആ സമയത്ത് ഐ തിങ്ക് ദാറ്റ്സ് വേർ ദി കോൺട്രാസ്റ്റ് ഇസ്. When you're growing up in far away from your homeland, you're going home only once a year. Every year we'd go on vacations. There was always that deeper curiosity. I think it was born out of that curiosity. What is happening in India? You know, എന്താണ് എമർജൻസി സമയത്ത് നടന്നത്, എന്താണ് ഗവൺമെന്റിന്റെ ഇത്, എന്താണ് അറബിക് വേൾഡിൽ തന്നെ എന്തൊക്കെയാണ്. സോ ആൻഡ് എവറി കാറ്റഗറി ഓഫ് ന്യൂസ്. ഇപ്പോൾ ബിസിനസ് മാത്രമല്ല, എന്താണ് ഇപ്പോൾ വെംബ്ലി സ്റ്റേഡിയം, നെൽസൺ മണ്ടേല, സൗത്ത് ആഫ്രിക്കയിൽ എന്താ സംഭവിക്കുന്നത്. Somewhere I had that interest. And
I'm just interested in that. Yeah, I'm just interested in that somewhere. Where did that come from? But I think it must have, it's in your DNA.
Yeah, maybe Achan was very curious. So Achan would talk about these things.
Okay.
And then it just formed and shaped into something else. And I was reading the Illustrated Weekly India Today kannu vaikimbo, and I would be completely enamored. കുട്ടി ഒരു ആലിസ് ഇൻ വണ്ടർലാൻഡ് സ്റ്റേറ്റ് പോലെയൊക്കെ ഞാൻ പോവും. I would read these magazines, news magazines, between ടെക്സ്റ്റ് ബുക്കിലൊക്കെ ഒളിപ്പിച്ചിട്ടൊക്കെ വായിക്കുക. അമ്മ കാണാതെ ഇരിക്കാൻ. Because അമ്മ conventional thinking is, textbooks വായിച്ചാ you're good at what you do. And I think even back then I never believed that. First കിട്ടിയാൽ മാത്രമേ successful ആവുള്ളൂ എന്നുള്ള. So that even that definition of success, I think I was not very sure about. Like, on the one hand, both my sisters, I'm middle. ഇവര് രണ്ടുപേരും എല്ലാറ്റിലും ഫസ്റ്റ് അടിക്കുക, എല്ലാറ്റിലും ഫസ്റ്റ് റാങ്ക്. മറ്റേത് മറിച്ച് here's this middle child who's not showing any promise whatsoever, who's only reading the newspapers.
But has that ever made you like pause and think that, am I on the right path? And in the success എന്താണെന്നുള്ളത് എപ്പോഴെങ്കിലും?
I had self-doubt. In fact, even today, I have imposter syndrome. I live with it every day. There's this constant self-doubt. ഞാൻ ചെയ്തത് ശരിയാണോ? ഞാൻ ഇങ്ങനെ വായിച്ചത് ശരിയാണോ? ഞാൻ പഠിക്കാമായിരുന്നോ? I mean, I did. University of Mass Communication, Mass Communication, University of Calicut, I stood first in the entire university. I was a rank holder.
So you have tasted that success also?
No, I have. Yeah. I have academic success, if you call it success. Yes. Standing first in class, if you call that success. Yes, പക്ഷേ നമ്മള് ഈ സക്സസ് എന്നുള്ളത് ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് എ വെരി ഒരു മിറാജ് പോലെയാ. അത് you're constantly working towards it. Can any individual call themselves successful? I don't know. It's like, self-actualization. Maslow's theory, Abraham Maslow, it is that ultimate peak or of reaching your potential.
Yeah.
But do we all actually reach that potential, or are we constantly driving towards it? So a fully actualized individual is somebody who enjoys that element of psychological health where you think that, I'm authentic. I'm confident about where I've reached.
Yeah.
But I think it's a constant striving towards that purpose that really is success, in my view.
I completely agree, because even Success 369 is also about how success is beyond titles, beyond the first rank that a child can get. But beyond that, is it aligned to you as a human being and what you want to do? Which is exactly why I wanted to have this conversation with you. Because,
yes.
And when you're saying Samsarikima Tane Inke, I'm very, very surprised to know that ആ കുട്ടിക്കാലം തൊട്ടുള്ള ആ ഒരു ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റ് ഒരിക്കൽ പോലും അതിന് മാറുകയോ അതിന്ന് മാറി ഒരു മെഡിസിനിലേക്കോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ society. And I'm sure when you were doing your 12th and all of that, there would have been a lot of pressure as to എന്താ മെഡിസിൻ ആണോ എടുക്കുന്നത്, എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ് ആണോ എടുക്കുന്നത്, ആർക്കിടെക്ചർ ആണോ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പൈലറ്റ് ആണോ, ലൈക്ക് ഓൾ ദോസ് കൺവെൻഷണൽ സക്സസ്ഫുൾ ആയ ഒരു കാര്യത്തിലേക്ക് പോകാനുള്ള പ്രഷർ ഒരുപാടുണ്ടായിരുന്നിരിക്കും.
See, it is sad because annatha kalatha onnillengi medicine. If you're from a fairly well-to-do background, if your child is fairly intelligent, the only pathways were medicine and engineering, and I just didn't understand that.
Me too.
My parents, like everybody else, thought you're successful if you're an engineer or a doctor, and to the extent that njan chela videolakku pombo, I was completely frowned upon. I know that some of my parents' friends, avarakka enne view ചെയ്തിരിക്കുന്ന as this, this unsuccessful, so-called, she's not treading the conventional path, she's going off the beaten track, completely തിരിഞ്ഞ് മാറി നടക്കുന്ന ഒരു കുട്ടിയെ പോലെയാണ് അവരെന്നെ കണ്ടിരുന്നത്, because she didn't have good marks in her 10th, because she didn't, so why would you impose those kind of definitions on anybody? Right? And I was very clear, and I also did those coaching classes, which I didn't enjoy at all. I have nothing against science. But I think what I am against is the way in which some of these things are
forced upon.
Yeah, or propagated. Some of these ideas that are ideals, that nammal or ideal child avanengi, you should either do this or that, then get married, then lead a life. It's not linear anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
We all have to adopt that non-linear approach. And enikku, to be honest, we always talk about mentors, and I always believe that as a woman, there's no harm in having a male mentor. I fortunately, ende bhagyathina enne sherikku ende trackil kondu vannathu en husband aanu.
Really?
Yeah.
After marriage aana?
Alla, I've known him for the last 30 years.
Okay.
We met in college. He was my senior in Victoria College. And he was appo anne njan ee wall magazines okke cheyu college la anne endana, you don't have internet adonnu illalo, appo newspaper clippings vechittu I would create wall magazines every day in the college, right? Appo college wall njan idokke vekkum, Methil Renuka, I would sign it off and with flourish and all of that. And then my husband, he was then, I didn't know him well, but he was my classmate's brother. He would come, and he was doing a CA at that time. Appo college lo anni wall magazine vaikkan vendi varum.
Wow.
Right. And that's how, right in front of that wall magazine, another friend of mine introduced us. It was all serendipity,
I think even before knowing you, he was interested in those.
Yes.
avade vechitana ningal parichayapettu.
Adu maatralla, I mean, that's a very interesting story. It was my talent that drew us, or so-called talent that he perceived I had, that drew us together. The playing Cupid was our principal. അന്നത്തെ കാലത്ത് പ്രിൻസിപ്പൽ ഒരു ദിവസം രാവിലെ 7 മണിക്ക് വിളിച്ച് എന്നോട് പറയുകയാണ്, എന്താണ്, വേഗം വരൂ, എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ് കോളേജിൽ ഒരു എക്സ്റ്റെംപോ എലക്യൂഷൻ ഉണ്ട്, and I've chosen you from Victoria College to represent it, and I want you to sit in the library with your super senior Vimal Kumar, and he is an authority, he's like an encyclopedia, he'll give you all the latest information on what's happening around the world. Serendipity, right? I land there, and there's a super senior, I've never spoken to him before, and he speaks to me in the library, and I was totally floored by his intelligence, because here's this man, ee Google pole annu Google onnu illalo, 1991 il NATO endana edu, Saddam Hussein enna cheyda edu, okay war il idingeneyana, okay, what is happening in the West, and I have sheafs of paper with me, and I'm just taking down notes, and this man is reeling off news. Imagine his grasp of the news.
ഇന്ന് നമുക്ക് ChatGPT ഇല്ലാതെ
Exactly. So for someone who's already very thrilled to be in the news world, to meet someone who knows much more than you.
Yeah.
So that was the magnet. And adindaanu thodangiyathu. Adindaanu nammade relationship thodangiyathu.
Amazing. I think that's the most grounded relationships. It was not built on flowers and chocolates.
Nothing.
It was built against flowers and chocolates, of course.
It was sheets of paper that brought us together.
And not papers of love letters.
No, nothing. It was just this. And then he told me, so in MSc admission kitti college entomology ke first rank ഒക്കെ ആയിരുന്നു എല്ലാം കൂടെ നോക്കിയപ്പോൾ എൻ്റെ ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് മാർക്സ് ഒക്കെ നോക്കിയപ്പോൾ he said, no, you should not be doing MA or MSc. You should be doing mass communication. I am so grateful to my husband that he suggested that. And I told my parents, of course, they didn't know about him. I told him, ഞാൻ ഇത് ചെയ്തോട്ടെ. And എനിക്ക് കുറേ യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റീസിൽ നിന്ന് എനിക്ക് കോള് വന്നു. പക്ഷെ ഫൈനലി യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റി ഓഫ് കാലിക്കറ്റിൽ അതിലും entrance എനിക്ക് ഫസ്റ്റ് കിട്ടി. And then I got through and it was
Sometimes it's really strange. നമ്മളെ പ്രസവിച്ച നമ്മളുടെ അമ്മ, നമുക്ക് ജന്മം നൽകിയ നമ്മുടെ അച്ഛൻ, നമ്മളോടൊപ്പം വളരുന്ന നമ്മുടെ സഹോദരി സഹോദരന്മാർ, അവർക്കൊന്നും അറിയാത്ത പോലെ നമ്മളെ മറ്റൊരാൾക്ക് കാണാൻ കഴിയുന്നത്.
who comes into your life and says you are not meant for this, you're meant for this. പക്ഷെ വേറെ എൻ്റെ കുറച്ച് ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് ടീച്ചേഴ്സും എന്നോട് ഇത് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. പക്ഷെ I never took it to heart. Today they remember it. They say അന്നേ നമ്മൾ രേണുവിനോട് പറഞ്ഞില്ലേ മെഡിസിനും എഞ്ചിനീയറിംഗ് ഒന്നും ചെയ്യണ്ട, your line is the media. പക്ഷെ അന്ന് തീപ്പ your knowledge of the media world didn't really exist. It was in the 90s, early 90s. And as I said, there were not many universities offering these courses. There were not many women in these courses. Nammal in a class 30 students, 30 or 40 students, only 4 were girls. So, and then all 4 topped the university. I came first and followed by the rest. So, and even I was told by some people in my family and friends, journalism aanu streegalku ശരിയാവില്ല.
Yeah.
And I said, sorry, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to be very happy doing this. And for 24 years, I've been in journalism across various geographies in the world. So I've lived in India, the Middle East. I've worked in India, the Middle East. I've lived in Southeast Asia, across Africa. Even today, I'm that single-minded focus on journalism. And there have been many temptations along the way, like big corporate companies inviting me to be a part of their corporate communications team, giving me tons of money and allowances. And I said, no, my craft is something I'll never give up on till my dying day.
That's truly surprising. But again, you bring me back to journalism. So you picked up something which is, ഇന്ന് നമ്മൾ journalism നോക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, it is, at least in Kerala, and നമ്മുടെ ഒരു സിനാരിയോ നോക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, journalism come and hooliganism zyada. It's more like less of journalism and more of like, ഗുണ്ടാഗർദി kind of thing. And നമ്മൾ പറയാറില്ലേ, ഈ ജ്ഞാനപ്പാനിലൊക്കെ പറയണത് പോലെ 2-4 ദിനം കൊണ്ട് ഒരുത്തിനെ തണ്ടിലേറ്റ് നടത്തുന്നതും ഭവാൻ എന്ന് പറയണത് പോലെ, ഇന്ന് ഭവാനല്ലാന്ന് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു, ജേർണലിസ്റ്റ് ആണ് 2-4 ദിനം കൊണ്ട് ഒരുത്തിനെ തണ്ടിലേറ്റുന്നതും പിന്നീട് മാറാപ്പെടുത്തുന്നതും. But ശരിക്കും പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, I have personally been on the receiving end, not directly but through my husband, on the worst part of journalism. How they put you on cloud 9 and the second day you're like you're the food for memes and trolls, those kind of things. My question for you is, what was your clarity when you were speaking about the craft? Okay, you spoke with so much passion when you said that. But I want to understand, as a journalist, what was that clarity that you had that, this is what I want to achieve when I am being a journalist? Because അതൊരു വർഷം കൊണ്ടോ 2 വർഷം കൊണ്ടോ ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്തൊരു കാര്യമല്ല for you it's been there in you from a child. So there must have been some vision or some dream that you had, that this is what I want to do as a journalist, or this is a change that I want to bring. ആ ഒരു ക്ലാരിറ്റി വന്നത് എവിടെ നിന്നാണ്?
So I think ആ വേർഡ് എനിക്ക് അറിഞ്ഞിരുന്നില്ല. പക്ഷേ it's an intangible concept. Mindil adund, പക്ഷേ you weren't able to define it. And now I know what that word was that I was searching for in my 20s or in my teens. It was impact. We use impact very loosely. We want to create impact, measurable impact and all of that. I think somewhere I wanted to see somebody's life changed. Or namalde narrative karanam. Something in a country or an economy or just changing that narrative. I think that's what I would call it. I wanted to change the narrative in some way. And you spoke about journalism today. So vis-a-vis what was in the 90s. I was taught by the best of the best. The impeccable editors of that time, the impeccable teachers of that time, like Dr. Saeed Amjad Ahmed, who was my mentor when I was studying journalism. He was the head of the department. He's no more. He passed away last year. Avarinnakka nammal padichirikkunathu, our fundamentals were so strong that you will never see that now. And I would like to be very proudly call myself a part of the traditional media, the legacy media, so to speak. I don't identify or relate with the journalism of today because I identify with the traditional, the purveyors or, the impeccable artists of that time, the most talented editors that I've worked with, whether be it at the Indian Express or India Today. There's some of the finest. And I do believe that they're still around. It's just that people don't see them in noisela. So it's the people who cut through that noise and still deliver their message authentically and with impact that will stand out today. And this is something I tell my team as well. And the team is now African journalists across the continent. We have stringers. I work with all of them, correspondents, writers, freelancers. They're in Nigeria, they're in Kenya, they're in Rwanda, they're in South Africa. My team itself sits in South Africa. And and they're very young. They're all under the age of 30. I learn from them more than they learn from me. Every day I'm learning something new about technology or, so that I really believe in reverse mentorship. പക്ഷേ അവരോട് ഞാൻ പറയുന്ന ഒരു കാര്യം അതാണ്. Cut through the noise. Believe in value-driven journalism. Believe in being honest. You owe it to your reader or your listener. And I'm saying listener or viewer as well. Because pand print medium airnu, you only owe it to your reader. Today, print medium na parayanathu, we all multimedia journalists. So if I'm a desktop print journalist, now today I see myself doing videos. I see myself being in front of the camera.
The options are...
Yes, and we're on TV. So what you owe your reader, your listener, your viewer is authentic storytelling, right? It is honest, accurate, fact-based, fact-checked journalism.
But is it really easy to do that today?
It isn't.
It's not.
Not at all.
Thought so.
And especially with AI, normally AI വരുമ്പോൾ ജേർണലിസ്റ്റ് പോവും റൈറ്റേഴ്സ് പോവും. ഇപ്പോൾ ഞാനിപ്പോൾ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ട് ഞാൻ സഹിക്കുന്നത് എന്താ അറിയോ? The thing that I'm confronted with the most, which AI, yes, it has helped us as a tool. It has helped us augment the process and productivity.
But is it harming it more?
In my view, yes. Maybe I'm a laggard, a laggard.
Laggard,
Maybe I'm a laggard. I'm a late stage adopter in every sense. Okay, I'm too old. I'm an old fogey. I'm in my early 50s and people may see me as so. But nothing can replace critical and original thinking. All these years of machine learning that's sitting right here, right? 24 years of machine learning, if in the human sense, nothing can replace that because that institutional thinking, what has gone into years of being out as a reporter in the field, what has gone into years of being an editor behind the scenes. How can AI take over? I think we shouldn't really get carried away with that. Yes, I use AI to augment some of the processes, become more productive. പക്ഷെ ഇപ്പൊ ഞാൻ ഏറ്റവും what I'm second guessing every copy that comes to me.
Because you don't know if it is original or
if any newcomer who joins the team or any new writer that I meet, ഇവര് supply information, rehash the information that's lying online, or is it something absolutely new that you can tell the reader? I don't know. I'm unable to tell. ഇപ്പൊ എനിക്ക് ഞാൻ സത്യം പറയാ, I have become a big fan of imperfection.
That is right? So beautiful. Yeah.
That is, Innum kuda somebody sent me something and I said,
there were mistakes in it, and you're happy to see those mistakes.
Yes. And there was another copy that I saw where there were 0 mistakes, 0 grammatical errors. And I immediately knew that this person had used ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever it is to write that copy, right? And it negates the need for an editor, but still it does need an editor, because I'm looking at it and I've now developed an eye where I can tell an AI written copy from a human written copy.
But tell me something.
Imperfections എനിക്ക് ഇപ്പോൾ ഇഷ്ടമാണ്. And I was telling that person, this copy is too perfect for an imperfect me.
Is it really necessary to, if we have an option to be perfect, അപ്പൊ നമ്മള് അതിനെ നമ്മള് എതിർക്കേണ്ട ഒരു ആവശ്യമുണ്ടോ?
Okay, this is up for debate.
Yeah.
And I have asked myself this question a lot. I mean, if it is written even better than a human being, why not? But where is the original thought there, really, Deepa? And this is where I think we will be able to further define the space. When somebody comes to me with an original report from the field, that is something that will not exist online. Meeting a person in the flesh, getting his commentary, getting the atmospherics of a story is very different from going to the web. And, some people go even one step further. They feed it into the system and then they get a refined version. That is still okay for me. I can still live with that. But don't give me content that is already online.
Yeah.
We're in the news business. We're not in the rehashing news business.
Got it. That makes all the difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm still very old school and traditional to start believing that everything I see is real.
No, I would rephrase it as I'm still very original.
Yeah, critical thinking. It's original thinking.
Yeah.
You have to think. See, when you write a story, you've got to look at it in different angles. And how can you trust, and you've got to bring empathy in your writing.
Empathy. Yeah.
It's not just in relationships. You have to bring empathy into and that will define you as a good writer going forward.
So you were talking about, as a journalist, Renuka, you would have reported the strangest of news. And I heard you say somewhere that technology elite, it's not a very elite kind of thing. It can happen anywhere. And I just heard a beautiful thing that you said, that, Africa ഏറ്റവും corner, mostly ഏറ്റവും darkest corner polum, there could be someone who's doing, something great. So I want to ask you, does territory really define how successful you can be? Because, and you yourself have worked here in Dubai, you've been in Africa, you've been to Kerala, you've done your thing wherever you are. So I wanted to ask you, how important is one's territory or ecosystem when it comes to being successful?
It's zero importance.
Not important.
No, in my book. So an innovator who sits in South Africa, now I'm talking about Africa because that's my frame of reference. And in Africa, the biggest economy is South Africa. Africa, the most populous economy is Nigeria. So, there are 4 top economies in Africa. But Africa, everybody thinks it's a country. It's a continent.
Yeah.
It's a continent of 54 countries.
Yeah.
Okay? For me, an innovator coming with a great idea sitting in the Silicon Valley of Cape Town or South Africa or somewhere in Nigeria is not as impressive as somebody, a small-time innovator solving a problem in a rural part of Chad or Mali.
And you have met such people.
I have met such people. I've been incredibly fortunate in this profession, in this job, to meet people from across the length and breadth of the continent who've had no recourse, no means to get their ideas sold on media or, high-profile channels and high-profile platforms. And yet, the problems exist in those economies and there are innovators solving those problems. Because those innovators are seriously addressing social issues.
Yeah.
Ipo വെള്ളം വരണില്ല, ഒരു ചെറിയൊരു വില്ലേജിൽ വെള്ളം വരണില്ല. And somebody is coming up with an innovative solution to create water and electricity.
That has happened?
Of course. You should see some of the best innovations come from small town Africa. And the fact that you get to meet them.
Yeah.
I mean, Forbes എന്ന് പറയുന്ന എല്ലാവരും പറയുന്നത് billionaires-ഉം millionaires-ഉം business tycoons-ഉം ആയിരിക്കും. And one of the things that I did as an editor is to make sure that all spectra, all income groups are represented. And because നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ ബില്യനേഴ്സും മില്യനേഴ്സിനെ നോക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ തന്നെ ഇപ്പൊ ബിൽ ഗേറ്റ്സ് ആണെങ്കിലും ഇവരൊക്കെ they address this part of the spectrum as well.
But
right?
It's the billionaire story that goes up.
Yeah. പക്ഷെ അവര് ചെയ്യണതും ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള philanthropy addressing this part. പക്ഷെ there are people and they're also doing their part in identifying these small entrepreneurs and innovators in these small towns and giving them the funding. But the greatest problem in Africa or anywhere in the developing world and the emerging economies is access to funding.
Yeah.
It's access to capital. And if you're a woman, you don't even get that, right? So the policy making in the Loru Sambhavam is a very crucial factor in making sure that capital goes to the right places. That the regulations are made in such a way that everybody has equal access to opportunities and to capital and funding and all of these opportunities that should exist in our ecosystems today. So from that point of view, you've got to address all parts of the puzzle. I mean, one can't work without the another. And the real engine of the economy are these small entrepreneurs coming up with creative solutions to solve some of the problems that we have.
And that's where you create that impact that you would.
That is where the impact of scale, where you write about the billionaires, but you also focus on what they're doing. How are they channeling these kind of ideas to reach the right people? Nelson Mandela parne bole, your ideal isn't making sure, and you're even prepared to die for it, live or die for it. That's what he said, is making sure that all of humanity has equal access to the same kind of resources and opportunities. Why are we still in a world where we're talking opposites? Why is it that there's no equality or equity in the systems that we have? So how, as a journalist, and this is what I tell my team as well, your job is in changing that narrative. If people, there are still people who come to me and say, oh, പക്ഷേ ആഫ്രിക്ക ഇന്നലെയും കൂടെ എന്നോട് ആരോ ചോദിച്ചു പക്ഷേ ഇറ്റ്സ് എ ഡാർക്ക് കോണ്ടിനെന്റ്, അവിടെ സേഫ് ആണോ, അവിടെ എഡ്യൂക്കേഷൻ ഉണ്ടോ? Africa is not the dark continent. These are people living in the dark ages, asking me these kind of questions, because we're talking about a continent that has the world's youngest population. So think of the potential there for the rest of the world.
Yeah.
You're catering to a growing market of young people.
Yeah.
And these young people need to be given skills. Their potential needs to be tapped. Imagine the potential there is on that continent. And
Absolutely.
Some of the fastest growing economies are in Africa.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why is
people
it
still thinking?
Yes.
That way?
So he sort of, so ende teaminode ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത് is to make sure that all of these stories come out. Undocumented ne നമ്മൾ document ചെയ്യണം posterityക്ക് വേണ്ടി.
Yeah.
We're talking about the unsung heroine, the unsung entrepreneur, the unsung. What are the ideas that I can get from them? And this is the Africa Rising story that we're talking about, right? So, development journalism, so you can call it, I like to call it entrepreneurial journalism or development journalism. But at the end of the day, you're creating impact one word at a time, one magazine at a time, one story at a time, one summit at a time. And that's why it's so important to convene these kind of summits that we have. Next month, we have the 11th edition of the Forbes Women Africa Leading Women Summit. For 10 years with my team, I have editorially curated it. And today it is Africa's biggest and most powerful women's summit. Every day, if you see my inbox, I have people, high-profile people from the worlds of business, Olympian sports stars, Grammy Award-winning artists, celebrities, Hollywood stars, they are writing in to say, how can I be a part
of the summit? Yeah.
For government ministers, Gates Foundation, all of these big names, they want to be a part of it in some way.
Yeah.
And somewhere you've shifted the change.
Yes.
You've made a tangible shift.
And aren't you proud of that?
I'm proud of it because I have a very strong team and I have a very strong organization backing these ideas.
Yeah.
So you can't do all of this without the backing of the people who believe in you. And I'm very fortunate that I belong to an organization like Africa Business News, where the leadership believes in you. And they believe that you can make that change. And they're backing you in every possible way. And they believe in diversity. They don't think that a woman is less professional or less meritorious than a man. They constantly push you because you're a good professional. So I've been very, very blessed. So Eve, you spoke about success and the fact that I'm a managing editor. All of that wouldn't have been possible without a great team and without... So it's trickled down, whatever people are thinking on top, it just trickles down to you, and then you're passing it on to the people who work with you. I'm not saying work for me, work with me. We're all co-collaborators in this journey.
I understand. Renuka, when I'm talking to you, I get this strong sense of purpose from you, because, and it's not easy. Purpose is a cheerier word, it's not easy. If I ask someone, what is your purpose in life? It could be something as simple as, purpose is I want to be the head of something. What is the purpose of you going to work every day? I just need to pay my EMIs. Or, so people don't really look at purpose as something greater than themselves. Purpose comes when you really want to create an impact on someone. It could be your own family, it could be your community, it could be the world around you, but something larger than yourself. And I get that sense from you. Okay. I want to understand, at what point did you understand or realize this purpose that you want? Was there an incident in your life that motivated you that this is a kind of, this is what I want to live for, and I'm not going to give in to any society expectations unless this is the purpose that I want to follow?
I don't think it was an incident, Deepa. Maybe it was lying dormant in me, but Africa brought it out. I don't think it was an incident. It was a continent. It was a destination. It was a place. For Mahatma Gandhi, Jnana Mahatma Gandhiയുടെ ആശ്രമത്തിലേക്ക് പോയിട്ടുണ്ട്. I went with his granddaughter. His granddaughter drove me to the Phoenix settlement in Durban. And അവിടെ ഒരു moment, ഇത് ഞാൻ പല ഇന്റർവ്യൂസിലും ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്, but I'd love to talk about it. Gandhiji Panda, he came, South Africa always says India sent a lawyer and we sent back an activist. He was there for 21 years in South Africa. And there was an incident in his life, Peter Maritzburger, that actually spurred him to become this political activist. Gandhiji പറഞ്ഞിരിക്കുന്നത്, I discovered myself in South Africa, and I totally understand why he said that, because for me as well, for South Africa പറയുന്ന cradle of human civilization, അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെയാണ് പറയുന്നത്. ആഫ്രിക്കയിൽ തന്നെ mankind ജനിച്ചു എന്നൊക്കെയാണല്ലോ പറയുന്നത്. And in many ways, I feel that continent, ഈ dormant ആയി കടന്നിരുന്നതിൻ്റെ ഉള്ളിലുള്ള ഈ ഫയറും പർപ്പസും, it brought it out.
Wow.
And I really credit that continent for it. And that's why എനിക്ക് ഒരിക്കലും, I don't think I'll ever be able to remove myself. നാളെ I may not be the managing editor. I may not be a part of the Forbes family. I've been with the Forbes family in Africa for the last over 12 years now. Now I may not be, but my umbilical cord relationship with that continent,
always connected to.
People ask me, an Indian is editing an African magazine. I've been asked, you're not born here. And I tell them, but I've had Africa born in me, So that's the umbilical cord relationship that I'm talking about. I don't think I can ever separate myself. There's something about that continent. And I've heard a lot of factory fresh Indians from India who have settled in Africa say this, and it's very difficult to explain it. Other inexplicable ആണ്.
No, I truly believe that, നമുക്ക്
ഉള്ളിൽ ആ epiphany, awakening, so to speak, happened. I think it was because of the things that confronted me on the continent. Poverty, പിന്നെ inequality. ഇപ്പം ഞാൻ പോയത് തന്നെ സൗത്ത് ആഫ്രിക്കയിലുള്ള that apartheid history, I had been following it for a very long time. But to just be there, and I was covering Mandela's death, when he died, I went to meet. A year after his death, CNBC Africa ഒരു televised interview nu vendi, I went to Mandela's home in Soweto. I met his wife, Winnie Mandela, his daughter, and both of them are no more. But that connection, what is it in my destiny that made a person from Palakkad, Pudiyangam in Palakkad, to reach Soweto, to be talking to Mandela's wife about his final moments? Indore connection, to go back to the Gandhi story, Mahatma Gandhi at that time, Indian Opinion man newspaper he used to publish out of that ashram. And our printing press is still there, Deepa.
Wow.
His granddaughter takes me to that printing press and I stand there touching it. Now, there was something in my destiny that made me touch Mahatma Gandhi's printing press in South Africa.
My God.
What was it that took me there? It was ordained. And I knew in that moment that this is what I was meant to do. It was an affirmation.
Wow.
And sitting in his ashram on that veranda with his granddaughter meditating. ഇതൊക്കെ നമ്മളുടെ ലൈഫിലുള്ള നമ്മളുടെ പ്രൊഫഷൻ തരുന്ന മൂമെന്റ്സ് നമ്മൾ ട്രഷർ. ഇറ്റ്സ് നോട്ട് the paycheck that you get at the end of the month that is important. That is not the byline that I'm after.
Yeah.
The byline and the name that I'm after is in doing all of these. Following, I told you, the story always comes to me. You know, ഇതിലൊക്കെയാണ് നമ്മളുടെ ഈ enrichment as a human being.
Yeah.
I feel I've become a better human being. My husband says that, actually. You've become a better human being since being in Africa. And I think it's all of these stories collectively when you put together in your mental framework. നമ്മൾ ഓരോ മീറ്റിങ്ങിലും ഓരോ ആളുടെ കഥയും ഓരോ ആളുടെ ജേർണിയും ഓരോ ആളുടെയും സക്സസ് ട്രജക്ടറീസ് നമ്മൾ കേൾക്കുമ്പോൾ it defines you as a human being even better.
And that probably brings clarity to that purpose.
It brings clarity, Matrola, you know, that clairvoyant, that idea of what your future should look like, you know, what success should actually look like. Is success actually taking home a fancy paycheck or wearing the latest Jimmy Choo or Louis Vuitton handbag? Is success actually getting an email from a young person saying you impacted me in more ways than you imagine? Is that success? So my definition of success has changed completely in the last 12 years.
And
since
Africa
moving
has
to
a lot
Africa.
to do with it.
Yes. And ipa our learnings now I take to wherever I go.
Yeah.
India poyalum, my view has changed.
Yeah.
You know, namla some of these lessons don't come from textbooks or from newspapers. It comes from the interactions that are your rich interactions with people. And from every interaction, you should take away something. You should come back with something precious that will help you or someone else in the future. For even if I meet a 20-year-old CEO of a company, and I do, I meet CEOs who are 20.
As young as that.
Yeah, as young as that. I'm an under 30 listener.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there in awe. You know, what was I doing at the age of 20? Even how are they wired differently? See, the core learnings are when you talk to them, and you're not talking to them, you know, you're talking with them, or how to top down that model has changed in my view.
Yeah, it's all parallel.
Yeah. Our top down model for me has changed. Even when I talk, I'm with my team, I don't talk to them or, you know, tell them or dictate to them. I learn from them. Namru, we always take what is best. And, you know, all of us work so well together, touch wood, that it's like different pieces of the puzzle. It's simply because we work on each other's strengths. That is, എൻ്റെ strength, എൻ്റെ flaws അവർക്ക് മനസ്സിലാവുന്നുണ്ട്. അതേപോലെ എനിക്ക് അവരെ മനസ്സിലാവാം.
So one of the biggest struggles that leaders mostly have when you were talking about this is how much is being friendly? Because I'm sure like when you were talking about this wonderful relationship that you have with your team, and I'm sure your team has a lot of senior people in it, mid-level people, entry-level people, but you seem to strike the right relationship and the right chord at all levels without really looking down at someone or talking to someone. Gone are those days. But then how easy or how difficult is it to get things done? Or
don't you think that is the best way to do it? You're not sitting in an ivory tower. If I was sitting in an ivory tower, it would have been very difficult to communicate, right? So either the channels are open channels of communication, and I always tell them I lead from the back.
Yeah.
I don't lead from the front. I watch them from behind. I let them lead. And I correct them when they make mistakes. Athrillu. I tell them, you're leaders. I empower them immediately. Even a newcomer that comes, I say, okay, you're handling this project end to end. I'm just going to watch from behind. And I will correct you as you go along if you're making mistakes. But be patient. But so I lead from the back. And I think that's really worked for me.
Absolutely. And you know what I feel?
I've made mistakes as well. Trust me, along the way. I've also made, you know, lapses. I've had judgment lapses and I've mistaken, you know, I've done mistakes, made mistakes as well. But But I have learned along the way, and I've realized that if you can't beat them, just join them, right? And lead from the back. The best thing is to empower them and watch them grow and not be threatened by it in any way.
Exactly. That's what I was coming to. I think where I have observed people who want to micromanage and want to behave like the conventional leader, I think it all stems from insecurities and
There's no need to be insecure,
right?
See, if my team member works well, that's load off my back. If she's doing an excellent job, I'm just clapping from behind and I'm saying, wonderful. I always tell them, the day I can relax on a beach without worrying about deadlines is the day that I know that I've fulfilled my duty as a manager.
You have empowered your team enough.
Yeah, all of you are. And when I go on leave, I never put any one person in charge. I say, you're all leaders, you're all accountable to each other, you're all in charge. So our sense of ownership, that proprietorial sense of this, the buck stops with me. If you give them that particular philosophy, then the buck will stop with them and they will feel that they're responsible enough to carry through any project or deadline. That has actually helped me a lot.
So I met this leader recently who handles one of the toughest clients in his domain. And he seemed to be extremely stressed out. And he says, I work 16, 17 hours a day. And he seemed to be having a sense of pride about doing that. And he says that even if I tell that someone else is in charge, the client keeps coming back to me. And so I end up working 16, 17 hours. That's how important I am in my team. And then I said, there is a different way to do this. You're doing something wrong. And he was taken aback. He was like, no, I'm doing everything right, which is why they're reaching out to me all the time. So empowering, being at a leadership position and empowering your team and അത് മനസ്സിലാക്കുക എന്നുള്ളത്, അതായത് ഇത് ഞാൻ വിട്ടുകൊടുക്കണം, മറ്റുള്ളവർക്ക് വിട്ടുകൊടുക്കണം എന്ന് മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്നത് it's a different level of leadership.
You're a caretaker at the end of the day. You've been given a brand. The leaders have entrusted you with the brand and said, take care of it. Our belief, the way they have that trust in me, I should also be able to trust my team to do it. So delegation, trust is currency. E business, ഏറ്റവും valuable ആയിട്ടുള്ള commodity is trust. The trust you get from your readers, the trust that your team has in you, and maintaining that trust is even more difficult than earning the trust.
Absolutely.
You understand? So, like for example, in our profession, you're only as good as your last edition. You make a mistake in the last edition, everything else before that is forgotten. Yeah? It's forgotten. People are not going to care. You make a mistake in your last story, you're only as good as your last story. So keeping that trust is a lot of work.
Yeah.
Right? And I understand this person, he says, he works 17 hours a day. Even I put in a lot of hours all of us do. My entire team does. But delegation is important. But there you're also telling the person that I trust you to do this. And if you make a mistake, it's perfectly fine.
Exactly.
You have to make the mistake to learn. But consistently, if you're making mistakes, then that's another problem. But failure is allowed. You make one mistake, you misspell a person's name and it goes to print. I mean, yes, fine. I mean, don't make that mistake. Learn from the mistakes and just move on.
That's key.
Right, that's very important. But more importantly, just be authentic to yourself. If you're not authentic to yourself, how are you going to be authentic to your readers?
Absolutely. So in our conversation so far, Renuka, I observed that you had put across some really powerful words like empathy, authentic, trust, right? So and in your profession, I have seen journalists who have absolutely no values at all, okay? I want to know, as Renuka, as a journalist, forget Forbes, forget where you've reached today. But from your beginning point, what is that one value that you've always held close to you? And I'm sure in your profession, ഒരുപാട് സന്ദർഭങ്ങൾ വന്നിട്ടുണ്ടാവും where ഈ വാല്യൂസ് നമ്മൾ സ്റ്റിക്ക് ഓൺ ചെയ്യാൻ വളരെ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടായിട്ടുള്ള cutthroat competition, where there are other journalists taking like the prime news, നമ്മൾ റൺ ബേബി റണ്ണിലൊക്കെ കാണുന്ന പോലത്തെ കാര്യങ്ങൾ where it's like പിടിച്ചു പറയാണ് വാർത്തയുടെ, right? So ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള സിറ്റുവേഷനിൽ Was it a struggle holding on to your values? And what is that value that you've always held
It is
close?
editorial integrity.
Integrity.
Innum, it has always been editorial integrity. നമ്മള് ഇപ്പൊ പെയ്ഡ് ന്യൂസ് എന്നുള്ളൊരു സംഭവം തന്നെയാണ് ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടില്. ആൻഡ് നമുക്കത് അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഇതൊക്കെ ഉണ്ട്, ലുക്രേറ്റീവ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ചിലവർ I'll pay to and can you put me on the cover, and I say my editorial is not for sale. അത് ഒരു ഇമെയിൽ അയക്കും,
അതല്ലേ,
my editorial is not for sale. You cannot sway me in any which way. You can promise me the earth and the moon. I will only put you in the magazine if I think there is editorial merit, right? Editorial integrity is not having vested interest when you write a story, when you feature someone, right? So if somebody knows me and that person is important enough, that is actually a disqualifier for the person. And because I know that person, I will never put that person in the magazine, even if the person has the chops to make it. So for me, that for me is, it's a deal breaker if I know the person and the person's being featured. So other editorial integrity is very important because, as I said, in today's age, there are a lot of temptations.
That's what.
People can, approach you and promise you a number of things, and it's very easy to yield or very easy to fall into that trap. But I tell my team as well, never fall for that. Ethics in journalism, normally individual ethic, ethics are very important. And being ethical in this profession is, again, a very rare commodity these days. I don't see it in India, widely when I look at the Indian media today. I mean, I may be wrong. Some of my counterparts are still...
There are a few.
People with very high integrity. There are some names that I can reel off per share. Largely when I look at what's happening in the Indian media right now, I don't think integrity is upmost on everybody's mind.
Exactly. So it's important and rare.
Yes, it is. It's becoming very rare now. Back in the day, it wasn't. We were all very clear about accuracy and balanced news. You're not actually favoring someone. There's no fear of favor, Panda. If I see that disappearing slightly, and it's kind of, and even in Africa, Bashar, thankfully, namalde brand, because we are accountable to the Forbes brand in the US as well.
Yeah.
We are very, very clear about who we have, who we feature. And fact checking is very, very crucial.
Yeah.
Remember, what I'd like to say is talk about hyper connectivity verumba. We are in the age of we are in a very hyper connected age.
Yeah.
Hyper surveillance kudi. That is, anything you put out there can come back to bite you 5 years later, or even 2 months later, or 5 years later.
Yeah.
So it's very important to make sure that you are doing your job with the utmost precision and you are accurate about everything you say, because you have an agenda setting role. You have to take your role as a gatekeeper very, very seriously. Gatekeeper, and all journalists should be gatekeepers, and the end of function. Discerning, sieving the good from the bad, sieving the news from anything else. And you owe it to your reader to give them realistic, balanced viewpoints.
Yeah.
Adana ee gatekeeper, agenda setting, gatekeeper role nu parayunathu. It cannot be taken lightly. Ee fourth estate nu parayunathu, it is a very... you can change the destiny of a country or a continent with your news,
Yeah.
Appa, as a journalist, your number one responsibility is to make sure that you are an authentic reporter, that your fact checking is right and you're reporting the right things and telling truth to power.
Yeah.
Speaking truth to power. Truth tellers ennallathu valare important aanu.
Yeah. And it's beautiful that you're aligned to a brand that is aligned with your values as well.
Yeah, that is why
or else you would have the pressure from the higher ups to accept that news or, promote someone and,
Ennalum, I do see business models changing everywhere, for everyone, for every brand. But then, so long as you stay close to your values, you're okay. ഈ church and state എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു definite ഒരു distinction തന്നെയാണ്. The church is journalism and state is the commercial temptations. or inclinations. So church and state, you always need to keep separate as a journalist.
So, Renuka, we are celebrating namala Antarashtra Vanitha Dinam celebrate
8th of March.
8th of March. So, you come from a family where there are, powerful women all around, right? Your mom, Ammayanengilum, രണ്ട് സഹോദരിമാരാണെങ്കിലും എല്ലാവരും super successful, and you're just in the same lineage, like you're also there, really flourishing.
I don't believe that, but yeah.
You still don't believe it?
I have a long way to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I mean, if you really are ambitious, but then, of course, all three sisters on, flourishing at their peaks. So it must have been really difficult to align the expectations of സമൂഹം സ്ത്രീകളുടെ സക്സസിനെ എങ്ങനെ വിലയിരുത്തുന്നു എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അന്നാണെങ്കിലും ഇന്നാണെങ്കിലും ഐ എം ഷുവർ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് അബൌട്ട് how good a wife you are, or how stable your family is. Are you a great mother? ഒരു സ്ത്രീയുടെ സക്സസിനെ പലപ്പോഴും സമൂഹം വിലയിരുത്തുന്നത് ഇത് ഇന്നും അങ്ങനെ തന്നെയാണ്. ഷെയിംലെസ്ലി ഐ എം സേയിങ് ഇന്നും അങ്ങനെ തന്നെയാണ്. അപ്പൊ അന്നത്തെ കാലത്ത് how did you align that internal your identity with external perceptions? ആ ഒരു misalignment-നെ എങ്ങനെ? I'm sure there would have been misalignment.
There still are. There's still people who tell me really mean things, when I'm traveling alone or I'm in South Africa most of the time. അപ്പോൾ ഭർത്താവ് ഉണ്ടോ, ഭർത്താവ് ഇല്ലേ, ഓ അവർ ഡിവോഴ്സ്ഡ് ആണോ, അവർ കൂടെയാണോ? And I treat these stupid queries or comments, with indifference. Give them indifference. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ പിന്നെ agree with them. ശരിയാണ്, പ്രശ്നമാണ്, അതെ. Give them what they want. That's what they want to hear.
So they'll go away quickly.
So my husband always tells me, and I told you, ende mentors and ende achan, ende husband. The male mentors are, you right. need to have as a woman, you also need male mentors, right? Yeah. Ende husband parayum, Renu, the only person you should actually worry about is me, what I think. Yeah. Everybody else you should just not worry about. Avarendu parayate. Right? So long as I don't think that. Yeah. The only person who matters is, to me, it's you, and to you, it should be me. And my husband is so progressive, and he's such a great supporter. Speech clap.
He's your cheerleader.
He's my cheerleader in every sense.
Yeah.
And I wish every woman in my profession had that sort of a cheerleader.
Exactly.
And I don't think I would have been able to achieve any of this without his support in the background. And very subtly, in the background, behind the scenes, without actually taking the stage. He's been very instrumental in this journey. And so also my dad, when we were growing up, and the parents, they always encouraged the three of us to read and pursue our dreams and do whatever we, people thought impossible.
Yeah.
So journalism cheyumbo kuda ellavarum parnu endinana ee kutti journalism cheyana, imagine.
Yeah.
And my parents said no. That's what she will do.
Excellent. But I have a question for you. Like, namukku kandondirikkunnavarilla, not everyone will have that kind of luxury, right?
They never will.
So, ഇപ്പൊ നമുക്കാണെങ്കിലും ആ ഒരു നമ്മുടെ എക്കോസിസ്റ്റം നമ്മളെ എത്രമാത്രം സപ്പോർട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട് എന്നുള്ളതൊരു കാര്യമാണ്. ബട്ട് ആംബിഷൻസിന് അത് അറിയില്ലല്ലോ. നമ്മുടെ ഉള്ളിലുള്ള ആംബിഷൻസ് വിൽ ഓൾവേസ് സോർ ഹൈ. പക്ഷെ അറ്റ് ദ സെയിം ടൈം നമ്മുടെ ചുറ്റുമുള്ള ഒരു എക്കോസിസ്റ്റം ഒരു ഇതുപോലെയാണ്, ചെടിക്ക് വെള്ളം ഒഴിക്കുന്ന പോലെയാണ്. ആ ചെടിക്ക് വളരാൻ sky is the limit. It can still grow. But at the same time, adine water in the ecosystem.
It's sad. But you know what? The advice I have for women in those, I think you should defy convention. There's no harm in being a rotten egg, so-called rotten egg. It's okay. Just do it. Let people say what they want. At the end of the day, if you have the confidence, you should do what you want to do and learn from other leaders who've also had similar challenges and yet they've forged on. Avara success stories of IKEA. Avara advice edukka. Tap into those networks. Networking is very important for such people. And that's why I want to go back to that statement about technology being a great leveler. നമുക്ക് നമ്മളുടെ ഭർത്താവ് നമ്മളെ സമ്മതിക്കില്ല ഒരു കാര്യം ചെയ്യാൻ. പക്ഷെ ടെക്നോളജി വിൽ അലൗ us to transcend some of the limitations that we have. ഇന്ന് ഇതേ ടെക്നോളജി വെച്ച് നമുക്ക് അർജന്റീനയിലോ അമേരിക്കയിലോ അന്റാർട്ടിക്കയിലോ ഇരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു സ്ത്രീയുടെ ചാലഞ്ചസ് നമുക്ക് you can chat to them and understand how അന്ന് നമ്മൾക്ക് അതൊന്നും ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നില്ലല്ലോ. നമ്മുടെ ഫ്രെയിം ഓഫ് റെഫറൻസ് was there's that little village in Palakkad or the little village in Calicut where I studied. ഇന്ന് നമ്മളുടെ ഫ്രെയിം ഓഫ് റെഫറൻസ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് is a universe. With anyone you can chat. A lady sitting in a Kugramam in Kerala can chat with anybody else in the world to understand what her struggles and what her story has been. Why can't you reach out to communities worldwide, create your own network of people who believe in you, and that confidence should take you out of the box and out of that little, well that you're in, that you're stuck in. So you should leverage off these tools. Dinakiyana AI technology use to come out of these situations and to be encouraged suitably enough by these examples that there are across the world. Why can't you use technology? Take advantage of it.
Yeah. Actually, it's interesting that you say that because നമ്മുടെ 369 പറയുന്നതിൽ 9 വരുന്ന one of the forces എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് networking ആണ്. So we got 9 ways of creating impact. അതിൽ one of them is networking. And networking, like you said, use technology to multiply your network more and more and also learn lessons from them. ഇപ്പം രേണുക സംസാരിക്കുന്നത് എവിടെ ഇരിക്കുന്ന ഒരാൾക്കും ഇത് കേൾക്കാലോ. Like what were your struggles എന്നുള്ളത്. So അതിൽ നിന്നും പുറത്തേക്ക് വരിക എന്നുള്ളതാണ് using this. But at the same time, you are also like the face of Forbes woman, right? Forbes Africa woman.
Forbes Africa, the flagship brand as well.
Yeah. But so I want to understand, ഇപ്പം ഏത് ജോഗ്രഫിയിലാണ്, you've been in Dubai, you've been in Kerala, you've been in Africa, എവിടെയാണെങ്കിലും what is the biggest lie about success that is being said to women? എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞതുപോലെ ഒരു സ്ത്രീയുടെ സക്സസ് പലപ്പോഴും she doesn't decide, it's always decided by the society, right? So, what is the biggest lie that is being said to you also maybe? Or since you've seen women and as a journalist, you would have spoken to so many women from different parts of the world, right? So what do you think is the biggest thing that women are falling for? Okay, this is enough for me.
No, I think that is it. Itra madi. ഇവിടേക്ക് എത്തിയില്ലേ, ഇതൊക്കെ ധാരാളമായി.
Right.
ഈ ധാരാളം ആരാണ് ഡിസൈഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്?
Who has decided what is ധാരാളം, അല്ലേ?
സത്യം ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മള് ഞാൻ I want to go back to that point about confidence. For me, everything changed when I became more confident about my own potential. I don't think I was confident or I knew my potential until somebody actually brought it out. Ipo oru job, this continent, this job. Ee job vannu, ee empower idappo njan what I thought was impossible when I attained it is when my confidence grew. And there I was also building my own brand.
Yeah.
So nammude personal brand ennallathu is very important in this journey, building your personal brand. So if you're aligned with such a big global brand like Forbes, or it could be any other magazine or newspaper group or anything, അതിന്റെ കൂടെ തന്നെ നമ്മളുടെ തന്നെ കോൺഫിഡൻസിൽ നമ്മളുടെ ഓൺ പേഴ്സണാലിറ്റി നമ്മൾ ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്യണം. യൂസ് ദാറ്റ് ആസ് എ സ്പ്രിംഗ് ബോർഡ്, റൈറ്റ്? You leverage off the brand success to build your own.
Yeah.
Right? ഇത്രയും വലിയൊരു platform, somebody has given you such a powerful platform to stand on, right? Use that platform to also develop your own skills, right? Develop your own skill sets and believe in what you are capable of. And in believing in what you're capable of, you're inadvertently building your own brand and your confidence levels. You think I was like this in front of... I remember I would never be on stage talking to people. Right?
What was that defining moment?
Yeah, that defining... There were times when I've embarrassed myself standing on stage, and words wouldn't come out. I'd be completely tongue-tied. And I think it was because, I was always fed this perception that you're not good enough. But ഞാൻ അതും പറഞ്ഞു, ഞാൻ കോളേജിൽ പഠിക്കുമ്പോൾ എക്സ്റ്റെമ്പർ എലക്യൂഷൻസിന് എല്ലാത്തിലും ഫസ്റ്റ് റാങ്ക് ആയിരുന്നു. I remember ഒരു യൂത്ത് ഫെസ്റ്റിവലിന് ദേവിക got all the dance awards. I got all the English elocution, versification, short story, essay writing. So I became Sarga Pratibha and she became Kala Pratibha.
Wow.
That same year in university.
Really? That happened?
Yeah. So Madhurumi or Manorama did an entire photo feature on us.
Both the sisters.
There was
in
a
two different
black and white photograph of the two of us standing together. Orala Sarga Pratibha, orala Kala Pratibha. Two different and innum നമ്മൾ ആ രണ്ട് മേഖലയിലാണ് നമ്മൾ രണ്ടുപേരും we've sustained that interest.
Right.
അല്ലേ? So but ആ extempore elocution ഒക്കെ ഈ engineering college boysന്റെ മുന്നിലൊക്കെ ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ I knew I was limited in terms of the resources I had to read, or in terms of നമ്മളെ ഔട്ട്ലുക്കും നമ്മളെ അപ്പിയറൻസും ഒരു പാലക്കാട് എന്താ ബോയ്സിൽ എന്താ. So, so-called social conditioning of how will boys perceive a woman standing on stage. ഇതൊക്കെ നമ്മളെ limit ചെയ്ത factors ആണ്, which I decided that I'm going to come out of. You just don't look at the boys. You look at one point in one center and then you talk to that as the audience, So you develop mechanisms in which to counter some of these social constructs.
Right.
And I did that. പക്ഷേ ആഫ്രിക്കയിൽ വന്നപ്പോഴാണ്, as I said, when somebody believed in me enough to give this position, my confidence grew. And then I realized, okay, I can do this. I know better than everybody else. And that's a fallacy I feed myself. Every time I'm on stage, I feel, okay, I know better than them. So maybe let me speak from that perspective, although that's not true.
No,
but
actually.
That actually has given me the confidence to speak up.
Yeah.
It's the knowledge as well.
Yeah.
When you have, as I said, 24 years of machine learning in journalism, you also have the confidence that you probably know more about your craft than anyone else in the audience.
True. That grip on your domain really helps.
Yeah.
That actually, there's an interesting point. Stage nilkunna samayathu, when you're nervous, there is something called spotlight fallacy. So spotlight fallacy is when every human being thinks that the spotlight is on them.
Yes.
Like, if I light nammade molekku adikana, appam ende vicharam you are noticing me ennalladana. But did you notice me even one bit? No. So we are just having a very live conversation. This is exactly when you're on stage, you think everyone's noticing. നമ്മൾ എത്ര വിറയ്ക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, നമ്മൾ എത്ര മിസ്റ്റേക്സ് ഉണ്ടാക്കുന്നുണ്ട്, നമ്മുടെ കൈ വിറയ്ക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ, നമ്മുടെ ബ്ലേസർ കൊള്ളാമോ, എന്ത് ഷൂസ്, എവ്രി വൺ ഇസ് ലുക്കിംഗ് അറ്റ് അസ് എന്നുള്ളൊരു ഫീലിംഗ് ആണ്. But ഇത് എൻ്റെ വേർഡ്സ് അല്ല. There are studies that have proven that everyone is the hero of their own life.
Yeah.
Everyone's spotlight is on themselves.
But it is a nerve-wracking experience being up on stage.
Yeah.
I remember Chief Minister in Loga Kerala Sabha, I got invited to speak and I had no idea what I was in for. അവിടെ പോയിട്ടാണ് ചീഫ് മിനിസ്റ്റർ ഉണ്ട്, all the big business titans of Kerala sitting there. There's 10 men and 1 woman on stage, right? For that inaugural ceremony. And I was so nervous. And then they called me to speak. And my first sentence was, I think I have to be grateful that of a panel of 12 people, there's only 1 woman, but you still, at least you call me up to speak first. And that was my first message to the chief minister.
Wow.
I had the guts to say that.
Yeah. And that broke the ice.
And then I continued. But it was a nerve-wracking experience. 3,000, pairs of eyes looking at you.
See, that's the point. You as a speaker, that happens to everyone. Even if because you are such a good speaker. I mean, the way words just flow. But even you have that experience. Stage nilkumba, you also feel like
no, words don't flow. They're just deliberated, and I have to think. I have to write up a speech, and I have to look at it. There are sheets of paper in front of me. But it is nerve-wracking. I would rather stay as an anonymous entity behind the desk doing my print journalism than be in front of the camera doing. I don't know how you guys do it, but for me, I have to stage manage it in my mind, and only then I'm able to do it. But
let me tell you, it's like people always want to be like the perfect speaker. That's not about speaking perfectly. It's about handling your imperfections. That's
exactly. I embrace my imperfections, and I told you that as well.
Yeah, you said that.
I embrace my imperfections, and that's what makes me authentic. I'm not this editor who struts around, thinking that I know everything. I know nothing.
No, I mean, I know that attitude is
the more I know, I know that I don't know. The more I know, the more I read, I feel, oh God, what is this that I've missed in my life? I know nothing.
So let's just talk a little about your personal, just coming to your personal life. There is something called parallel path strategy that we talk about in Success369. So parallel path strategy is when See, when I started off as an anchor, we were talking about anchoring and being on stage and all that. I was a very young girl. I mean, I was just in my 12th standard, not even 12th, I was in my 9th actually. 9th lana ഞാൻ ആദ്യമായിട്ട് camera face ചെയ്തത്, the audition പോയതുമൊക്കെ. There are times when I took my books to the makeup room because there were exams the next day, but I still did it. And then I thought, okay, 12th കഴിഞ്ഞു, entrance എഴുതി, അപ്പോഴും I was an anchor. I did my engineering, I was an anchor. I did my MBA, I was an anchor. In ജോലിക്ക് കയറി, even then I'm anchoring. And even today I'm an anchor. Right now, as we speak, I'm still interviewing you.
And you're doing such a great job. You're fabulous on stage.
Thank you. What I'm saying is that's a parallel path that I built all along because I've never stopped working. Yes. Working as in the office kind of work. I've always done that. I mean, I did my BTech, MBA placement. I've been working, but I've always built this parallel path because somewhere I feel I love doing that, right? And I want to understand from you, we all know Renuka as a journalist. Has there ever been a parallel path that you have been secretly developing that you're not aware of? What is that? What is that? Break it for us.
No, some people who are very close to me know that about me. I don't know if I'm good at it, but it's something that I've tried. I've also studied interior design.
See, the cat is out of the box.
Yes, I have. So I've interior design. I think if I hadn't been a journalist, I would have been an architect. I love spaces.
Right. It doesn't have to be connected in any way, like your main this thing.
It is connected in a way. So when I look at when I start the month, I'm looking at 200 pages of blank pages, right? Adilana magazine fill right? With people, color, images, whatever.
Yeah.
And I look at it as real estate. It's like stage it's like art direction. You look at a blank canvas or a DPS, what I call a double page spread, and I'm thinking so that composition, design, content, so maybe it is my interest in spaces and design that I bring to this job as well. But you give me any blank space and I like to play with it. I like to fill it with character. I don't know. That's something that I love to do, and probably that's something I'll do if I'm not a journalist ever.
Have you said this anywhere? Because I've never heard of this.
No, I've not said this anywhere.
Because
and there's another parallel track that I could have developed, but I didn't, and that was film. I was selected by the government of information and broadcasting one year to attend a course in FTII.
Okay.
In Pune, which I did. And script writing. And
off camera.
Camera. Oh, on camera, no way. I have no confidence for that. Or no one will even think of it. But off camera, script writing, coming up with those kind of concepts. So, and even art direction. That's something that I feel in another lifetime I would like to do. Maybe it's too late now.
Wow, this is like the unseen face of Renuka, Methil Renuka. But do you call it both ways?
See, I do call it both ways because in Africa people get confused with his family name.
Yeah.
So Methil is very difficult. So I get called variously methyl, methylene, methyl alcohol, and I'm used to that. Chemistry lab I used to be called as methyl alcohol.
So that's fine. I just made a small correction, but then she's used to even worse of that.
I respond to everything. So
okay. So just a few things quickly before we wind up. Okay. Now for every successful person, there is a core team. And when I talk about a core team, it's not the team that you work with in office or nothing like that. It could be I look at it as a few roles that you need in life. Okay. So if you have a gap in it could ഒരേ ആള് തന്നെ ആവാം ഈ പല റോൾസും ചെയ്യുന്നത്, but are the roles being fulfilled എന്നുള്ളതാണ്, right? So I'll just say a few roles. Tell me who plays that role in your life, okay? Challenger. Who's the one person that
my husband.
Your husband.
Yeah.
Cheerleader.
Husband.
Also husband. I knew that. Is there a criticizer who tells you this is you did this wrong? Again, your husband?
No, that would be my mother and my sisters.
How is it that all mothers are there? All mothers are the best thing they do is criticize her.
No, Amma, I mean, she says it for what it is.
Yeah.
Improvement, but my sisters also.
Yeah,
they do that, yeah.
And I believe...
Yeah.
So for a woman like you who's been like, I'm sure you're super, super busy. And I've myself been chasing you for months to get this conversation.
Sorry about that.
No, don't be apologetic. But Adoru reflection on about how busy your life is, and for the good reasons as well. So you really need somebody as an implementer. Okay. Is there someone who does things for you, sir?
And the support system at home. My helper. You know, he's incredible. You know, I'm more reliant on him than he's reliant on me. I depend on him.
That person who would just know what you need and just
he's
right?
like my conscience, you know. So he's such an important part of my life. You know, he looks after my dogs. He looks after my needs. He's there for my husband. So he is very critical. And namala support staff. Namala demean ചെയ്യും. നമ്മളുടെ സൊസൈറ്റിയിൽ അവരുടെ റോള് നമ്മൾ എപ്പോഴും അണ്ടർറേറ്റ് ചെയ്യും. ഇറ്റ്സ് അണ്ടർ എസ്റ്റിമേറ്റഡ്. ബട്ട് ഐ വുഡ് ലൈക്ക് ടു സേ, അവർ കാരണമാണ് സക്സസ്ഫുൾ women can call themselves successful because of the support teams they have
100%
in the house. They are the unsung heroes because ഇപ്പോൾ ഒരു കെയർ ഗിവർ ആവാം. നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ അമ്മ ആരെങ്കിലും നമ്മുടെ പേരൻറ്റ് വയ്യ, ഒരു കെയർ ഗിവർ റോള് അവർ. And their roles are very underestimated, especially caregivers in the roles. Nurses ആവാം, doctors ആവാം, ഒരു ഹെൽപ്പർ ആവാം. അതേപോലെ ഒരു സ്ത്രീക്ക് കോർപ്പറേറ്റ് ലൈഫിൽ സക്സസ്ഫുൾ ആവണമെങ്കിൽ she needs to have a successful support system at home as well. And this support system is made of support staff. People who help us in the nitty-gritties of every day. And avarku namala credit kodukkanam. It's not just your partner, your spouse or your parents. It is equally our. And they need to be rewarded for it as well. I always tell them. I tell him, whether it's him or the person who drives me around, ഞാൻ എപ്പോഴും അവരോട് ഞാൻ പറയും, നിങ്ങളില്ലെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ എന്താ?
I'm so glad you do that.
I always tell them.
പക്ഷെ that is one thing I don't think നമ്മുടെ മുൻപത്തെ ജനറേഷൻ
they don't understand that. അവർക്ക് അത് മനസ്സിലാവും.
നമ്മുടെ മുൻപത്തെ ജനറേഷൻ
അവരിപ്പോഴും ആ ഫ്യൂഡൽ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു ഞാൻ എവിടെയാണ്, നീ അവിടെ ഇരിക്കണം, നീ ഇവിടെ ഇരിക്കണം, don't use the table.
100%.
I don't believe in all
Even
this.
I don't believe in that. I mean, if I'm sitting across you on this table and spending this time, it's because I know എൻ്റെ രണ്ട് കുട്ടികളും വളരെ ഹാപ്പി ആയിട്ട് വീട്ടില് എൻ്റെ
again, it's that trust component.
That is very important. പക്ഷെ ട്രസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാൻ നമ്മുടെ മുമ്പത്തെ ജനറേഷൻസിന് ഇത്തിരി ഡിഫിക്കൽട്ട്
And it's not like we trust easily. It's because we don't micromanage them. It's very important not to micromanage.
So you were talking about brand, right, earlier? That is one thing, again, one of our 9 forces in impact, okay? So which is why I just want to spend a little bit of time on it. So when it comes to brand, today, I know that you have a social media team and all of that. But you don't look like a person who believes in, deliberately building a brand, right? Or building a brand for your own networking or for your own putting yourself out there. അതിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ബ്രാൻഡ് ബിൽഡ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരാളെ പോലെ എനിക്ക് തോന്നിയിട്ടില്ല. അതിൽ ഒരു തെറ്റുമില്ല, അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യുന്നതിൽ ഒരു തെറ്റുമില്ല. But I don't think you are that person.
See, I think somewhere we're missing the point. That is, even if I am with Forbes and I build my own brand, somewhere it takes me to the realm of being a content creator. And slightly, or an influencer. For me, there cannot be a bigger influencer than the brand.
Okay.
Forbes nu parayna oru 108-year-old institution around the world. അതിനെക്കാട്ടിലും വലിയൊരു ഇൻഫ്ലുവൻസർ ആവാൻ പറ്റുമോ നമുക്കൊക്കെ? And I don't want to get into the realm of content creation. I wouldn't mind being a news content generator. That is, if I'm doing a news item and I'm actually quite guilty of not doing enough of those or not doing them at all. I would like to get onto the streets of Dubai or Africa or in India and actually do news that is content, right? But I don't want to get into the realm of content creation as an influencer and become the lines are getting blurred. So, like a journalist can always break away from a system and create their own brand using all that. And having said that, it's not like I'm not going to do it. I may do it in the future. I may get into that. But I would strongly believe in putting out good content. And ipa the social media team upprum parayum Renu onnum cheyyunilla. Dogs in matram photos Instagram.
Dogs are being branded.
Dogs are being ellarkum dogs in area. Minyanu oru wedding nu poi they asked about ginger and sugar. Right? So that I do because I feel it's a part of my life, and
that's you.
That's me.
Because you love your dogs. You put them.
Not just that. I feel there's a lot to learn from a dog every day.
Absolutely.
They wake up happy. They wake up energized, and nothing can dismay them. There's so much to learn from them. Leadership qualities you can actually learn from them.
Can you tell me one of those?
Yeah, so I'll tell you. Ginger, my Labrador, she does not bark at everybody, right? Pashe, when she senses threats or when there's an external threat that she senses, she immediately her body language changes. And it's not that endearing dog anymore. Her body language changes and she's right in the front line defending me or defending that situation, right? Her leadership. When our leadership quality is, maybe I'm not being very articulate about this, but when Sugar, my retriever, she defends me when she senses that Ginger is going to pounce on me. You know, she immediately her body language changes and she becomes this frontline sentinel for me. So, and just the fact that every day they're teaching you something about empathy, about unconditional love, about giving without expecting. Adakka leadership qualities alle.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you are with a team, you're constantly expecting from them. Namala, it shouldn't be transactional, I feel. Namala whatever little you should be able to impart to them. And when they win awards for editorial excellence, for me, that is my branding. Right? And the social media will come from that. When they talk about it, it's brand Forbes Africa that wins. And it's the editor that wins in the end.
Yeah, but hats off to the leader in you who thinks like that. Because many people want to take the credit individually.
No, I let them take the credit. Editorial awards are venidirikkana. And venimba ettum loud aayittu clap cheyana njanana. I scream on stage, because they won. Ende mentorship at the end of the day, the credit is going to come back to me indirectly. So let my work speak volumes, right? Rather than me shouting from the rooftops. Then I feel I do a lot. And, my sisters, they say, you should curtail your Facebook or whatever. And even that, it's in a very limited way. But going forward, you never know how these mediums are going to change. Maybe as a journalist, that's the only way to get your messaging out, right? If it comes to that, then I'll definitely enter that fray and say, hey, I'm here as an influencer or a news influencer, whatever you can call it at that time.
Yeah.
But essentially, Deepa, we're all storytellers. I tell my team, you're no longer journalists. I cannot call myself a print journalist, or we're all multimedia journalists. We're all storytellers. Whether you exist on social media, print, television, wherever, you're here to tell a story. And sadly, even everybody is a storyteller. So there's a Pandi citizen journalism. That is frontline reporting. When there's a war, there's a citizen journalist who steps forward, assumes the role of being a journalist before a journalist gets to the war ground, and then they relate the story. Everybody is a citizen journalist, and that is why in this profession you've got to be even better than all of them. And what is going to make you stand out from the rest of the crowd is when you cut out the noise and you tell the original story.
Great. Have you ever tried your hand at casual cooking, just experimenting with
I love, I love cooking, I don't get enough time for it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know.
My husband is a better cook than I am. I learned all my cooking from him. So, there again, there were no stereotypes. Even when I got married, he never expected that I should cook.
I think you're very lucky.
There again, those stereotypes were reversed. Even today, he doesn't believe that. He says, Indina ni chiyana, indina daka,
Amazing.
Amazing. So, but he does say that I cook very well. So.
Oh, that's nice. Someday I should come and taste.
We will.
We will. So if success were to be a dish, what would be your perfect recipe? Or what are those? I'm not going to talk to you about conventional cooking. Of course, I was coming to success. So I want to know, has there been one winning recipe that's always worked for you? It could be one of your values, could be one strength, it could be one core team member. It could be a mix of 3 or 4 things that you regularly sprinkle into your work that's always worked out well for you.
There's no replacement.
This is exactly what Dr. Divya Iyer told me in my podcast with her.
There's nothing that can... the harder you work, the luckier you get. It's as simple as that.
So luck is not an alternative.
The harder you work, the luckier you get. People, sometimes they say, oh, she's so lucky. Of course, you have to be at the right time at the right place. And I was at the right time at the right place with the right company. But there was an opportunity that was given to me. If I had just been complacent about it, would I have been here for 12 years? No. I really had to work hard at it. And that is why I tell all the new members joining my team. I'm giving you an opportunity. Now it is up to you to use it as a blank canvas and fill it. It's a blank canvas that I've given you. Your creativity should be limitless, right? And it is up to you to make the most of that opportunity. So I do believe that when an opportunity comes to you, you have to make the most of it. And the only way to do it is the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Amazing. Yeah. I think that's one thing. There are people who talk about smart work and doing.
I don't know if I'm a smart worker yet. I still because I'm a sucker for punishment.
You're used to doing that.
I'm so much of a perfectionist that I cannot. Story I have to fact check it. I have to look at it. In different
twice
ways,
and thrice,
different angles. Okay, maybe for a story or a cover story, somebody send me a cover story. I said, I'm not entirely happy with it. So he asked me, and then I said, Ilya, there are so many angles that you've not explored. And I had to sit down with him in between all of this and come up with some more ideas. I said, I need a 4D analysis. I don't want the third dimension. I want the fourth dimension for every story.
Yeah.
And then he was like, Renu, thank you so much. This is so helpful. Now let me go back to the drawing board. So don't give someone the most obvious way of doing something.
Yeah.
Just work hard on, it's like, sculpture, chisel it. The rough edges, chisel. You think you have a good product. No, you don't. Got to keep grafting
Always
away.
Get better.
Yeah, keep grafting away, keep chiseling away. And then you find this distilled product, or this distilled version of what you had in mind. And for me, it's resilience, it's hard work, it's all of that.
So we'll just end this with one last question. You as a journalist would have seen multiple success stories. Which is the one that has really been surprising to you? പക്ഷേ ഈ പറയുന്ന ഒരു conventional success അല്ലാത്ത ഏതെങ്കിലും ഒരു success story where you felt that, wow, that is success in its own way. എന്ന് തോന്നിയ ഏതെങ്കിലും ഒരു instance?
ഒരു ഇൻസ്റ്റൻസ് ഇല്ല കേട്ടോ, കുറേ ഉണ്ട്.
I know.
Especially young people. They have always surprised me. ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ വായ തുറന്ന് ഞാൻ കേൾക്കും. ഞാൻ അവരുടെ when it comes to young people, I think I listen to them. Sometimes I'm in awe of most of these people. See, the thing is, you have to have a multi-generational outlook to everything.
Yeah.
That is, I can't sit and say I'm a Generation X and I can't understand how Generation Y and Z or Alpha is thinking. Generation Z and Y, Z. Then you have Generation Alpha even now. In Generation Alpha, and I've met some young people who are doing incredible things. So I'm constantly amazed at how they're thinking, because I believe that tapping into their thinking is important for my tomorrow. If I have to be relevant tomorrow, I have to understand how these young people are thinking. So if I interact with people in their 50s and 60s and 70s who've done extremely well, and I've met a lot of these icons from around the world, from your Bill Gates to Oprah Winfrey to all of these big icons in Africa as well. You hear, right? But how are these people handling their success, learning from that and implementing their own learnings and their own observations of life? It's very interesting. So, I feel kind of, the sandwich generation. I feel like I'm in the middle watching this and that and inculcating or imbibing the best of both. And trying to be a good version in inculcating
best
all of that.
Both, yeah.
So, as I said earlier, it enriches you as a person, as a professional. More so as a person. It enriches you so much. I've got enough stories, to last me a lifetime. So, when I'm old and I'm in an old age home or wherever, and I'm looking back at my best years, these are the things that will fill my heart with a lot of happiness. And, I'll be enriched. I'm completely enriched by these experiences. And I'm going to hark back to each one of them. And I have enough to last me a lifetime already. And I can't wait to see what the next 20, 30 years will unfold if I'm alive and lucky to see all of that.
I'm sure that's what true success means to you. All these experiences that you've had.
Maybe as an 80, if I'm lucky enough to be 80, and if I'm still doing what I love, and if there are still mediums or avenues, we can't tell technology anna newspaper undavo, print undavo, namakku ariyillalo. Nammal will be holograms.
I think so.
So
you can just
so
swipe it.
My father used to always say, so far so good, you should attach to every sentence.
Yeah, because nothing is permanent.
Nothing is permanent. The impermanence of life and the impermanence of technology and the impermanence of news is going to decide what you will be 5 years, 10 years later.
Amazing. I think, in Korea questions ഒക്കെ prepare ചെയ്തിട്ടൊക്കെയാണ് വന്നത്. പക്ഷെ the way we spoke and the way you spoke, your experiences, and it just brought me, and I'm sure Deepak is probably thinking നമ്മൾ എഴുതി വെച്ച ചോദ്യങ്ങളൊന്നും ചോദിച്ചില്ലല്ലോ, because I felt the conversation itself was so enriching with especially your Mahatma Gandhi story and the way you were able to go to that printing press.
That was a defining moment for me. It was an affirmation from God.
It's so beautiful. Thank you so much for
And you're an
time.
excellent interviewer. I didn't feel this felt like more like a living room conversation.
It's a lot to do with the guest, actually, because you just flow in the conversation. But I think it was so enriching, and I hope people get the whole idea of having these conversations. Like you said, it should reach the corners.
Yes.
And people should draw inspiration out of it. അതിനു വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണല്ലോ നമ്മൾ ഇതെല്ലാം ചെയ്യുന്നത്. So I'm sure you've given enough for all of them who are watching you.
But,
absolutely. Thank you so much, and I wish you all the best for your upcoming summit.
Thank
and wishing you
so
once
much.
again a happy International Women's Day.
The very same to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deepa.
I'm sure this was a really insightful conversation. ഞാൻ പറഞ്ഞതുപോലെ ഒരു എന്താ പറയാ, ഒരു ഇന്റർവ്യൂ മോഡിലേക്ക് പോകാൻ പറ്റില്ല. It was like a flowing conversation. നമുക്ക് വളരെ എന്താ പറയാ, രോമാഞ്ചം എന്നൊക്കെ പറയുന്ന ഒരുപാട് മൊമെന്റ്സ് ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. I'm sure even you would have felt it. This was probably one of the most cherished episodes of Success369 Podcast. I will be with you again in another episode with another inspiring personality. Till then, this is Deepa Rahuleshwar signing off.